This time, the Geopost conducted an interview with Mr. Lucas Mandl, member of European Parliament from Austria People's Party. Mr. Lucas, how do you see the Russian influence in Europe?
Yeah, thank you for having me. First of all, we have run a special committee in the European Parliament for 2 years, and we have just restarted it recently on foreign interference against Europe's democracies and on disinformation. And one of the findings of our parliamentary special committee of the European Parliament was that 60% of disinformation and foreign interference have their origin in the Kremlin. And this is influence that harms our societies, that is meant to divide us and to weaken Europe, weaken the Europeans. And this has been ongoing for many, many years. It's not quite recent as the war against Ukraine was started, but it has been ongoing for many years. And this is one important example of influence by the Kremlin in Europe, which is negative and which is always trying to divide us, because Europe's unity is its largest strength. That's something we see each and every day, especially in our times we live in. And that means to divide us, to cause division within Europe, means to weaken Europe. And this is something the Kremlin is trying. Also other entities and powers on this planet are trying to weaken Europe, but it's especially the Kremlin who has been trying this for many, many years.
Your country, Austria, has made a balance with both Russia and the West. What is Vienna's official position now let in the aggression against Ukraine?
Austria has always been a part of the political West since the Second World War. And Austria is always contributing to the free world, to liberal democracy, to rule of law. And this is true, and this has been true also before this war. And this is a clear position of Austria on this planet. Of course, as other European countries, before this awful war of aggression against Ukraine, there have been business contacts, economic ties with the Russian Federation. And this is exactly the thing that we are trying to use now in order to sanction the Russian Federation for this war against Ukraine, and for this war actually against freedom, dignity, and our values. And this is the first unbloody defense against a bloody war attack in history. And due to these due to these ties in the past, we have the opportunity to sanction Russia, and the sanctions work.
Mr. Mandl, how do you see Russian influence in the Balkans? Before the war and even now? Because Balkans is a troubled region and the only region left outside the European Union.
I would say the general overview shows us that the EU has missed a lot in the 6 Western Balkan countries, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, Kosovo, Montenegro, North Macedonia, Albania, and Serbia. And this is clear now. We have missed many opportunities to include the 6 Western Balkan countries into the European Union. We have to speed up now. Because missing out these opportunities meant to leave open the door for influence from outside Europe, from powers who do not share the values Europe represents on the planet, like the before mentioned values as liberal democracy and rule of law, and individual freedom for each and every person, personal dignity. And this is why also the Kremlin has a lot of influence in the Western Balkans, and always tries to divide us even in the Western Balkans, and to misuse entities, governing bodies, other public entities, even business entities, and also organized crime to divide us, to weaken Europe via the Western Balkans. And this is exactly the thing that we must not let happen at all.
How do you see the position of Serbia and their so-called neutrality? Is President of Serbia, Vučić, going with the West or East? How is your looking from Brussels and from Vienna?
Well, at the moment, it's a clear response to that, that he's obviously, unfortunately, going with the East. But the clear overview shows us not only from my side, it's not only my opinion, that the European Parliament has, in a special plenary session, decided on March 1st this year that it's of deep concern, with a huge majority. The European Parliament has decided that it would be of deep concern that Serbia is not in line with the sanctions, the first unbloody defense against a bloody war of aggression in history. And I share this concern with this vast majority of my colleagues in European Parliament. It's really very irritating that after EU being the largest donor to Serbia, EU even counting Serbia as an accession candidate country and trying to contribute to a positive European future in freedom and democracy for Serbia, while everything is given, Serbia positions itself quite on the wrong side of history in these times. And this is also why Serbia plays a negative role in the Western Balkans at the moment. And I always share my clear view that Serbia could play for the Western Balkans the role that Germany plays for all Europe, because Germany is large and economically strong. Serbia is not that large, but the largest country in the Western Balkans. Serbia is by far not that economically strong as Germany is, but still the strongest country among the 6 Western Balkan countries. So it would be something to take responsibility for future opportunities, for wealth, for the youth, for perspectives in the workforce and in education for young people in all Western Balkan countries, and to connect more and to create more confidence between the Western Balkan countries. But Serbia is missing out each and every opportunity to be on the right side for its own citizens. I want to share this very important view that when we talk about these values and these opportunities and these future perspectives, we talk also about the future perspectives of the citizens of Serbia. But obviously the leadership of Serbia plays a different game, and it's an awful game actually.
Do you think that Serbia, in cooperation with Russia, can make troubles in the north of Kosovo, destabilizing the situation there, or even in Republika Srpska, in Bosnia?
I will always contribute to an international community of the free world, which remains taking care of the security of Kosovo, of the sovereignty of Kosovo. And this is why I hope we can avoid more tensions. We can avoid at all violence of whatever kind. And I still hope that Serbia will come on a positive path and will open the door for itself and for the 6 Western Balkan countries for EU accession.
Mr. Lucas, how do you comment the relations of Republika Srpska's leader, Milorad Dodik, with Putin?
Yeah, there's obviously a lot of trouble in Bosnia and Herzegovina due to Dodik's behavior. We have discussed that in various different plenary sessions already in the European Parliament and also in other meetings and discussions. And I guess there were some negative scenarios even before the war of aggression has been started against Ukraine. And this trouble in Bosnia and Herzegovina seems to be disappearing at the moment, but we should never trust into such a situation. There will be trouble again, as long as there is nationalism around, there's hateful ideology around, and there is this readiness for violence around. And this is something that is should not be part of our today's civilization of Europe.
And last question. Do you see any optimism in the European Union, especially in Brussels, to have a big plan about the Western Balkans? Is European Union finally ready to make visa liberalization for Kosovo?
This is clear. The European Commission has decided that all the criteria that were in place in order to gain visa-free travel, visa liberalization for the people of Kosovo were fulfilled. The European Parliament has decided with large majorities several times that it would be in favor of visa liberalization. There is still a small minority of member states' governments who are blocking visa-free travel for the people of Kosovo. Many colleagues, as myself, are each and every day running and trying to convince the decision takers in these member states who built this small minority of member states who are blocking for visa liberalization. This is long overdue. This is among the things which are not only overdue, but long overdue. And in a bigger picture, of course, the European Union needs to restructure itself. The war of aggression against Ukraine was a wake-up call that we have to take care more of Europe's strength to the outside, of Europe's security, of the security of all Europeans, no matter whether they are EU citizens or Europeans which are not yet EU citizens, not only in the Western Balkans, but also in the United Kingdom, in Switzerland, in Norway, in Ukraine, Georgia, and the Republic of Moldova, but especially in the Western Balkans, where the people have worked for many decades already on EU integration and on EU standards and on EU accession. And as mentioned, the EU has missed a lot of opportunities to include the Western Balkans and should do it now as soon as possible.